Everyone, welcome to the Furnished rental panel. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it a ton. So we'll go in. We'll start with just introducing everyone, our sponsors, our panelists, and then we'll dive right into it. Usually how we run these, I'm going to ask them like 5 questions, and then we're going to save questions for you guys at the end. We don't have a ton of time for questions. How these events go, these guys are amazing at what they do, and there's gonna be hundreds of questions. So I make them stay an hour after so you can keep bugging them. So if your question doesn't get answered, that's what they're there for. So Aaron says too bad. Okay, so let's start with the sponsors. Before I get into the sponsors, a couple of shout outs. Mayar has been awesome helping out. Planning these events, there's a lot that goes into them. Johnny, this guy over here, he is one of the owners here at the Perry Group, the tech guy. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life, and he is a huge reason of why these events happen. So thank you, Johnny. And then Jaden also helped set up. So thank you, Jaden. Can we give all of them a round of applause, please? Awesome. Okay, so now we'll get into the sponsors. I am an investor and an agent. It still feels weird saying I'm an agent because I've been investing for 5 years. I got licensed February 1st of this year, and I'm at the Perry Group, hence why we're doing this out here. The Perry Group has been huge for my business. I started February 1st, and I'm going to brag a little bit to entice you guys. I'll probably close $14 million from February 1st until the end of 2023. Goal. If you guys are interested in being an agent, I am confident that this is the best place to be, especially if you're trying to learn from investors, if you're trying to jump into production and haven't seen it. So if you're interested in the Perry Group, come talk to me afterwards. I've been investing for 5 years, been an agent for 1. So still trying to figure out my identity, but that's a little bit about me. So Perry Group, talk to me. Majestic Home Warranty. Dan, can you come up here? Dan has done all of our home warranty stuff here at the Perry Group. He's awesome. We're going to give him a minute to speak a little bit about Majestic. So here he is.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Like you said, my name is Dan Lewis. I own Majestic Home Warranty. A little history and background about myself. I've actually been in the real estate industry since 2005. Is when I got my license. Prior to that, I was a journeyman electrician doing service calls for home warranty companies. About 6 years ago, I got approached by an owner of another company, another home warranty company, asking them to open up the territory, the Salt Lake area. After 7-8 months, I was like, there's so much customer service that could be done, so much better customer service that could be reciprocated to not only the real estate agents, but the clients themselves, to make those real estate agents look like rock stars. And when I'm out promising the highest level of customer service, when that comes out of my mouth, it means something to me. So that was something that I could control. I did something about it, and that's why I started Majestic. The state makes us put what we cover, what we can't cover, what we do, what we don't, and being able to have the authority to say, you know what, this one's kind of in the gray area. This guy's a rock star for me. I'm going to make him look like a stud and take care of it. When the agents have things that come up in their inspection report and they know that it's pre-existing, there's an issue that they find, they reach out to me to get those items resolved prior to them closing. I've done construction my whole life. I keep a 40 and a 50 gallon water heater in my shop at all times. especially for those holiday weekends when supply houses are closed. I've got a mass amount of space heaters and cooling units. I have no problem leaving a family function, especially if it's my wife's side.
Yeah.
I've left New Year's Eve parties at 9:00 to run a space heater to a client to make sure they were warm. And come to find out, it was the gas company's issue. Their regulator froze up. It wasn't even my equipment that was the failure, but I wanted to make sure they were taken care of. So it's all about customer service. I'm here local. We do cover the entire state. We have 3 plans. We've kept our service fee down to $50 a service fee. If you guys haven't given us a shot, the only way I can earn your business is to let me try. We do not only warranties for homes in a real estate contract, we offer them on existing properties as well. We do have a different pricing and a different program for that. But if you've got questions, I'll be here. So, but thanks for having me.
Thank you, Dan. Perfect. Okay. Our next sponsor, if you guys are in the investment world, raise your hand if you've heard of PropStream. It's a very, very popular data company in the investor world. And they've been amazing at helping us make this happen. So if you don't know what PropStream is a data company for real estate investors that help you a ton building lists. It helps you pull comps even. It's an all-inclusive data software for real estate investing. I probably butchered that, but if you don't have it, you need it. Talk to Mayar if you don't have it. And she'll help you get set up on that. It's like $99 a month. So worth it. I've had it for 4 years and running. So, okay. All of our panelists, as part of a thank you for having them out, they're going to highlight their businesses. They all have big businesses. And so they're going to talk about those as well. Okay. Meet our panelists. Yeah, ignore that part. Unless you want to play musical chairs. Okay. So we're just going to go down the list and we'll do a quick 30-second rundown of what you guys do. You know what? Let's fast forward. I was going to reiterate myself. We're going to go through in simple terms, introduce yourself, and then explain what you do. Is that easy enough? Okay, perfect.
All right. Hey, everyone. How's it going? Just before jumping in, I just want to kind of get a feel like who's here. So who here, we're obviously talking about short-term rentals tonight. So who here has short-term rental property currently? Raise a hand. All right. And who does not? And who wants to? Keep the hands up. All right. Perfect. Obviously we all have a similar interest. I got started coming to events like this, just trying to learn from other professionals in the industry, other peers, and really this is my wife, Brindy. I'm Kyle, by the way. And the question, what do we do? We do short-term rentals. We started out with flipping properties, got into multifamily investing, and really saw the opportunity in short-term rental investing. It's obviously a very crowded space, and so we got together with our partner, Jack. He's here in the back, in the orange shirt there. One of the smartest guys I know, by the way, so if you want to feel, talk to Jack. But really, we started looking at it, and we said, if we're going to do this, we need to do it better than anybody else. And so we kind of focused on creating experiences for our guests. Our tagline is "Don't just stay, experience." And so we have ultra-themed properties in Orlando. We hired theme park contractors to come in and create 3D beds with fire-breathing dragons, with fog machines and murals on every wall, and that type of thing. And that's kind of how we became known. And then from there, we branched into other markets, really just focusing on creating that experience in whatever market we're in. So that's Moma Homes in a nutshell.
So I'm Brindy. I'm his wife and business partner. And like I said, the three of us are the owners of Loma Homes, and it all started from the business rentals for short-term rentals. We have them in Florida and the Poconos, the Panhandle of Florida, and then also Orlando. And as we grew that business, we found other opportunities. So we now have 2 additional companies as well. So we've kind of branched within our company into 3. So Kyle manages Loma Homes. I manage our design service company. It's called Revity Refined, where so we got a name for ourselves, and because of our crazy designs out there, we renovate every property. In Orlando, we have the spaceships and the dinosaurs and all those special effects. It's like a theme park in your house. But in your beach homes, those are renovated and have themes that are not dinosaurs, because people don't go to the beach to see dinosaurs. Instead, they're like pirate, or all the bathrooms are remodeled. It's a 1920s Gatsby themed. So we look for what people are traveling to that location and run data and figure out how we can create the ultimate experience for what they're willing to pay more for. So it's all about optimizing your asset. And so then other people started approaching us, wanting us to do their homes as well. So I now manage our design asset optimization service, creating experiences in other people's rentals. And then we also branched out into a data company called IntelliHost. So the guys in the orange shirt, Jeff, a partner, and this is Sam. You can talk to them if you have more questions, but essentially on our back end, we were running all this data to figure out how we could be the best in our market. And we were comparing like, hey, if we add a hot tub, how much does that add? Hey, if we change our cover photo, how much does that change? And just did all this like fine tuning to make our listings optimized. And as we pulled this data, we realized there's not a product out there for what we were building for ourselves. And so we created it into a listing optimization for your Airbnb listing as well. So we've got 30-day trials. If you want to test it out, it helps optimize your Airbnb listing to make sure you're getting the most revenue possible. Thanks, Aaron. So free to try. Check it out.
Hey, before we pass it off to Lame, Brindy, I'm expecting you to brag a little bit here. If you can touch on some of the accolades you've seen, because I've heard of some, but I want you to brag about you, Loma Homes, and what you guys have done.
So Loma Homes, one of our properties went viral. It got picked up by Forbes magazine, a travel and leisure. It got over 7 million views in the first couple weeks it got launched. We've had YouTube videos over 1 million. We've had Instagram posts go over 50 million. So there's a lot of virality in some of the properties we've created. And so we've been able to create a nationwide brand based off of the property's experience and whatnot. So is that what you know?
That's perfect.
Yeah, right now I'm working on one for Lame, and it's going to be the next $1 million idea.
Oh, let's go.
Cool. Hey, first off, I just want to congratulate everybody here. Thank you for showing up and being present. It's rooms like this where you learn and you meet the people that are going to change your life and get into real estate. I always tell people that real estate, it's really not about hard assets, houses and money and passive income. Real estate to me is genuinely a business of people. The more people that you know, more people that you give value to, the more real estate that will come to you. Real estate is a byproduct of relationships. And so congratulations for being here. My name is Lame. I own a company called Elk Ridge Management. I'd say my niche and competitive edge is we are a fully integrated short-term rental, investment firm. So we do everything from acquisition, design, setup, and management. I kind of own the whole vertical, and I'm okay at all of it. I'm not nearly as good at management or as design as these guys, but we buy a lot of the properties that we own a lot of the properties that we manage. So most of our portfolio is here in Utah. We're in 4 other states as well. But I'm just excited to be here and share with you guys what little I know. So happy to be here.
I'm Aaron. I just try to keep my wife happy.
How you going?
I'm very happy. My wife is so much better at everything than I am. So my wife is a collegiate athlete. She won the MVP and all that kind of stuff. And was the mascot. So like,
True story. He was the mascot. Ask him to do backflip.
I am very humbled to be up here because each one of these other people up here have saved my business at one point. Beginning of this last year, I hit kind of this huge hurdle in our business, and I was considering selling everything and quitting. And to which then Kyle, unbeknownst, said, "Hey man, I'm going to this convention. I got a free ticket. You want to come?" Changed my world. realizing that there's greater things. So I'm very grateful to Kyle and his company. Also, growing up in this space here in Utah, there's this aspect of competitiveness that I like, and I had a really hard time connecting with other managers and like building a community. And I met up with Lame kind of with one of those lunches where you're like, I'm gonna get to know you, so I know what you know, so I can figure it out. And 6 hours later, we were still hanging out, and he's considerably one of my best cohorts friends that I'm very grateful to be up here with them. Our company is Conmigo Vacation Rentals. Conmigo in Spanish means with me. So the whole concept is to stay with us. We really focus on process. We have got it very dialed in. We can launch properties within 10 days of onboarding them and getting them fully ready. We know down, thanks to my wife, we know down to the penny how much properties are making or not, so that we can make very strategic decisions. That's probably our competitive edge.
Thank you, everyone. Everyone give them a round of applause. One of my favorite parts of doing this, being able to host these events, is bringing people who are much smarter than me, but also just having amazing human beings in my circle. And I try to filter that honestly with my speakers to the best of my abilities, that is. Getting to know these people, I can promise you, if you're interested in short-term, mid-term rentals, will help you out. So hopefully you guys get something from these events. That's my purpose. So we'll move on from there. So our next question we have, and I think this is a pretty generic question, but it's awesome to get to know these people to a deeper level. And the question is, what led you to getting into real estate in the first place?
Yeah, sure. My parents do commercial real estate, but up in Idaho, I always thought I would grow up and join daddy's business. I decided to get into Amazon management and FBA. Instead, did that for a number of years, realized it sucked. To which I probably started 10 different businesses because I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've failed successfully at a lot of them. And then thanks to who? You guessed it, my wife. We bought a house and we flipped it and renovated it, and we were going to move into it, but we realized rental rates were increasing, so we just rented it. And then we bought a second house it had a big basement, and we said, let's try that whole Airbnb gig thing. And I had a studio apartment that now, looking back, was terrible. Not terrible, terrible. Like browns, just all the browns. It was terrible. It was literally an Airbnb. You walk through our front door, you pass my yelling kids, and then they went into the studio basement. In the first month, it did $800. The next month, it did $1,200, and then the next month, it did $1,400. And I was like, there is something to this if you're going to book my terrible brown basement with my kids above you. And so I kicked my tenants out, and we kind of, I kicked them out legally. It was my brother-in-law. But we converted them into short-term rentals, and then we realized there was a business to it. And so we just kind of scaled more, had conversation. My goal actually was, when I turned 30, I would quit my W-2 because I was working in FBA at the time. But my birthday is March 14th, and I was March 14th, 2020. Instead, we got a world pandemic, 95% cancellation, $25,000 lost in a day. And I was like, shoot, there goes the dream. But over the course of 6 weeks, we added 4 more clients because I wasn't commuting as much, and we were able to scale enough. So I mean, that's kind of, I guess, how I got into space. We now do some burrs and some flips. We're all trying to build our wealth. So that's kind of been how I got into it.
I think my story is pretty similar. Again, shout out to you guys for being here, because I don't think I was nearly as intentional about getting into real estate as you guys are being here. For me, it was by accident. I was bred and born, and I cut my teeth into the door-to-door industry. So I made a lot of money selling security systems and solar door-to-door. Now, that taught me a lot, and I think it's a life principle that everybody can apply. I learned things in that industry that ended up translating very well into real estate. And what's crazy about it is, to this day, the hardest thing I ever done was knock doors. Like, it is by far easier to do what I do now, and I make a lot more money. And so I think oftentimes in our day-to-day, we correlate, your income with hardship or difficulty, and that's not true at all. For me, I started by just buying traditionally my own place, lived in it for a year, similar to Aaron, I was like, hey, let's try this Airbnb thing. I still have the listing and I love having it archived because it's like terrible.
Same.
It's just garbage. It's just straight. It was like a bed on bricks, completely terrible. I remember doing it, and in my head, I was like, hey, if I could just break even on the mortgage, it's a win for me. First month, we made $2,000. And similar thought process is like, hey, there's something here. I didn't jump full-time into real estate until even 2 years after that. I started buying one at a time, doing it slow, in tandem with my door-to-door job. And then it wasn't until, and I think this applies again to everybody, it wasn't until I kind of just sat down and I was like, hey, what am I good at? What do I want to do? I want a life change. And that's when I just jumped and I went all into real estate. And this is back in 2020. And since then, I just haven't looked back. But it's interesting because as I look back, my biggest regret is not betting on myself earlier. My biggest regret was not betting on myself earlier based on the things that I developed and the skill sets that you developed in your day-to-day. So you're being prepared for something special right now. And that moment's going to come. And when you bet on yourself and you're intentional like you are being here, good things come of it.
So Kyle and I, we were in corporate America. We were fresh out of college, didn't have kids, had big boy jobs and money. Like for us, it felt like money. And weren't sure what we were going to do with it. So we said, hey, we could buy a house, but we were in Wisconsin for jobs. And like, well, we don't want to live here forever. And we don't really know what size of house we want. So let's try buying a fixer-upper and a duplex and live in one side, rent out the other. And we house hacked. And we thought with no any experience in housework or maintenance or anything that we would be able to flip it from YouTube. And nonetheless in 10 days. So
Nice. We're on.
So as you're wondering, we joke that is our 10-footer house. If you got to look at it 10 feet away because it was awful. But it was a long-term rental, so the expectations are much lower than like my fire-breathing dragons. So we lived in one side, rented out the other. The rent covered our mortgage and more. And we were like, oh, this is great. So like we're building our asset portfolio, and we got into long-term rentals. And my end goal was that I knew I wanted to have kids, and I knew I wanted to be able to still have flexibility in my schedule and not have to work a regular job, but still do something to contribute and have more financial freedom. So our goal from a young age, like we bought our first house when I was 21, he was 23, and we just started building our portfolio right away. In fact, I was talking to someone earlier, we bought 10 houses before we bought our own house that we lived in. We were all about building our wealth to be able to escape the rat race. It took 4 years from us buying our first house until both of us were full-time in it. So we transitioned 2 years. We did it on the side while both of us were working. Then we had our first kid. I stayed home and I did property management. So we didn't hire a property management company. I did our property management and I started flipping houses. And then 2 years later, we got to the point where it was sustainable enough for Kyle to quit his job. And so then we started getting into house flipping, multifamily, got into some apartments. We met Jeff and then got into vacation rentals. And we were like, hey, this is fun. We've always loved traveling. It's a good hybrid of our interests, and it was making good money. And it was successful. So we're like, hey, let's, ditch our other things. And he quit his full-time job and we went all into Loma Homes and created our portfolio and our business as it is today. So we've been doing Loma Homes for almost 5 years now, and are fully focused on vacation rental.
Amen.
If I could take, if I could even add, like the one thing that I have always been impressed with my friends here, including Jeff in the back, is each one of them has identified a skill that they're awesome at. And then they have built teams around it. Each one of you, right now you're thinking, oh, I don't have the sales skills, so I can be successful like Lame. Each one of you has your own skill and your strategic advantage that you're going to bring to a partnership or to something. Hone in on that. And the more that you hone in on it, the better of a tool you're going to be in any potential relationship. Kyle's ability to sound professional and connect with people, I'm always blown away with. Jeff's ability to understand numbers is through the roof. Lame's ability to find money out of thin air is amazing. Brittany is incredible at design. Like, I look at us, I'm like, oh, we could do this. And then she touches something. I'm like, oh, what am I thinking? I might as well have been a blind person. Each one of you has those individual skills as well. And so if you could pull anything from learning from us is find what you're awesome at that you love and go after it, and then bring people and build the team around you.
And just to add, especially in real estate, because the biggest blessing, which is the same curse in real estate, is that there's a million ways to make $1 million. And so the sooner that you can gain some clarity in what you're good at and how to provide value in real estate, the better.
I think, yeah. Everyone needs to find a hype man like Aaron. If you don't have that, looking for friends.
That literally is my talent. My talent is being a mascot. That's it.
He's no big hype man around. I think for me, it comes down, I think almost everyone could relate. Freedom and flexibility in your lifestyle. Who can relate? Like, why are we doing real estate, right? For me, it was back when we were in Wisconsin, working my first job out of college, working for a modest salary. I think I got 10 vacation days a year. And there was this one week where I had a flight booked home. I think it was to come home for like a friend's wedding for the weekend or something like that. And I got word on like Monday night that, hey, grandma's not doing so good. You may want to come back. She's probably not going to make it, type of a thing, right? And I'm looking at my vacation days. If I go early, then I lose all that and money flying out there. And so like Tuesday came around, like grandma's still here. Wednesday came around. My flight, I think, was Thursday or Friday. And I decided, I'm just going to stick it out. Hopefully grandma can make it. And by the time I took that flight, she died like 8 hours before I got there, 12 hours, something like that. And I just regretted, like, man, like I felt constrained. Like I just wish I could have been there and felt like I had the freedom in my life to be able to go and say goodbye to her, right? That's something that stuck with me and really gave me the motivation of like, what's it going to take to create this actual freedom and the financial flexibility to be able to go and do those things when they come up. And real estate's been an avenue for me to do that. And so thinking back, like, what did it take to actually get traction in real estate? One is education, right? Like I went and got the education I needed from the people that I trusted to learn how they did it successfully. I knew you could lose a lot of money really fast in real estate if you do one deal wrong, right? And so, I went out and got a level of education that I felt comfortable with. You can educate yourself to death, so don't do that either. But the other part to that is surround yourself with mentors and people that you can trust along the way. And so I kind of felt like I knew what I was talking about, but I also knew that I had spent time in these types of places that if I ran into questions along the way, I could reach out to this person or that person. Like, I don't know everything, but I know this person does. And if I run into that, it gave me the confidence to take that first step into buying that first home and buying the first rental property and doing the first flip and the first apartment. And so I guess a takeaway of like, we all have this desire of getting from A to B, wherever that is. Get the education and surround yourself with people who can help you get there.
One thing I want to add to that too is you might look at us or look at other investors and be like, oh, that's like an overnight success. Or they just like dive in and were successful. And what you want to keep in mind is it's just one step at a time. Our first step was 10 years ago when we bought a dumpy duplex and we had no idea how to do anything. So he's painting the wall and I'm in tears because he's an awful painter. Like real life, I went to work and he thought he was going to surprise me and paint the whole house. And it was so bad. Probably more than that. But I mean, like it's all it took was one step. Like analyze your first deal. Make sure you're making smart decisions. You're getting the education, but you don't have to have the game plan of where you have to be 10 years and know how to get the whole apartment complex. All you need is focus on what's the next thing I need to do. I need to analyze properties to find one house. And then once I find that one house, now how am I going to make that one house the coolest Airbnb ever? I had no idea how to build a dinosaur or a spaceship. I started Googling people who build dinosaurs. And like one thing led to another, and I found people who could build me dinosaurs or whatever. So just don't get overwhelmed by everything that can do. Just focus on one thing at a time.
I love it. And I'll just, being one in the audience and hearing what they've all said, to me, it's obvious that taking action was a major piece in where they got to now. And not only that, but Lame was saying, just betting on yourself. And so I think that's a huge nugget that we can take. It's not going to be overnight. We can guarantee that. But betting on yourself and taking action. I said this last event too, but at one point I was going to so many of these networking events and going to lunch with as many people as I possibly could because that's natural to me. I'm an extrovert. And it came to a point I wasn't taking action. I was doing what was comfortable to me and trying to learn, like Kyle was saying, like over-educate, analysis paralysis, however you want to word it. There's so many different avenues that you can get stuck in and not take action. So that's a nugget I want to share that I learned from these amazing people that I wanted to share.
I'm sorry.
Of course.
My problem is jealousy. I get very jealous of people. And over the past 2 years, I have really worked on being more humble. We've actually, the announcement or my call to fame or whatever of the boutique hotel that we own, I got it because I was humble. It was a fellow investor I was very jealous of. He had more doors. He announced all that. And each one of you has put yourself in this circumstance. I mean, you look at us, you look at other people in your brokerages or around you, say, oh, but they've got 5 properties and I'm never going to be there. And you compare yourself. The reality is your path is different. And all you have to do, just like Grandpa says, is don't let education don't let school get in the way of education. Taking that action and going after and realizing what you're not good at and working on it. So the only reason I bring this up is we seem successful. Last year, we were cleaning 180 homes and we were managing 90, and we were failing super successfully at all of it. We were losing $40,000, $50,000 a month on payroll alone, and I didn't have that beautiful hair girl over there didn't want to stay with me anymore because I was always working. The reality is there's huge failures that come along with it, and same with all of us. We've all had of it. Where what we did is that's why we then focused on process, is because we cut the cleaning arm side of things. We cut about 45% of our portfolio from management and just focused on the ones that were doing decent and dialing in on numbers. And from there, we've been able, now over a year and a half, really, we now have the air quotes success, overnight success that we all want, right? So please realize that your journey is not our journey, but whatever success is for you, if it's one more house, that's your success. That's big. That's one more house that you have that you didn't have before. That's the point. So please acknowledge too that failure is part of it, and you're going to go there and
there we go. And I think to Aaron's point, when you start comparing yourself to others, which in this industry is so hard and something that I'm constantly battling too, I think that can box you in terribly. So you're not exploring your creative balance because you're trying to compete in whatever industry. Hannah right here, one of the top agents on our team, number 2, right behind Michael.
Not to compare.
Yeah. But if I tried to keep up with Hannah all the time, then other parts of what I'm passionate about, like these events, I can't keep up with Hannah. That's what I'm trying to say. But if don't let that box you in. It's so easy to compare yourself to others in this industry. And there's a million ways to make money. So like Lame said, don't let that box you in. Okay, with our next question, I'm excited for this one because this is something that I want to learn. Sorry, these TVs don't make it easy for you, so you're just going to have to trust me. What are the biggest challenges with getting an STR or an MTR, which is short-term rental, mid-term rental, to perform in today's market? And whoever's starting, maybe let's define what a short-term is versus a mid-term.
I wanted to start. You told me.
Right at Wame.
Whoever's starting, you gotta let me go.
All right. So short-term is defined technically as rentals that are 30 days or less. Okay, and then you get into midterm, which typically is furnished monthlies. Then long-term, we all know what long-term is. Short-terms are furnished properties that are rented out for 30 days or less. What was the question? Challenge. What was challenging?
Getting into short-term?
Challenges to getting an STR or MTR to perform in today's market.
Yeah, that's a big one. what I'll tell you guys is that, and I guess I'll start from the beginning. Airbnb used to be an industry where you could throw up a bed on bricks and make money. And that flooded the whole economy with supply. There's a ton of supply, right? It's matured now, okay? I don't want to say saturated because the guys that are dogs, guys and gals that are figuring it out,
Like Lame.
to that, they just understand that now the market is matured. And because of that, I have to be more competitive in a lot of different ways. We could all give you a masterclass on what that is. Algorithm, SEO, design, customer service, your VAs, your guest communication, amenities, everything. But I guess my biggest piece of advice to anybody that's wanting to get into it is understand and respect the industry. Like, know that there's going to be things that you have to prepare yourself for educationally to be able to step in a market that's highly competitive right now. You saw
That, I mean,
yeah, I think biggest challenges right now are just standing out. I mean, it's no secret that Airbnb over the last 18 months has dropped significantly in occupancy. That's a fact across the entire United States. So what we've all managed to do is just to be very innovative in how we create income in the STL market. For me, I've been buying creatively. I control the debt. If the occupancy isn't there from where it was last year, I just buy a property subject to, and I'm creating a lower floor than anybody can buy traditionally right now, right? And so it's really just being creative in today's market. And that's why I say, just respect the opportunity as you step into it. Know that you have to be very competitive in whatever way, whether it's design, whether it's in management, whether it's in creative finance or acquiring the debt. Like, you just have to know that you got to fight. And so, and it's a good thing, right? Because at the end of the day, we're just in a slump. Like, Airbnb will come back to us in its full glory. But for now, you just got to be competitive. You guys can agree or disagree.
I agree.
I agree too. And I think the biggest thing with the competitive market right now is treating it professionally. As much as you guys succeeded on your first one, that was like you darked in, it would die right now.
Right? And
like,
we just cashed in. That's literally all it was.
And that was perfect timing for where you're at. But now you have to treat it professionally. So people often are like, well, I'm just going to do it all myself. But then if you're not using the different technologies, you're losing money on the table. So using pricing algorithms, using listing optimization, or using professional managers that are using those platforms, making sure you're getting professional photos and actually staging your house, even if you have design skills and want to stage it yourself, you still need to think through, what are my pictures going to look like? Because your pictures and your property are your marketing. And so people will try to cheap out and just do it themselves and take iPhone pictures and just take down their family photos and DIY it, and they think they're saving money, but you're actually leaving money on the table because you're lowering your income by trying to minimize all those expenses. So I think the challenge is the temptation to avoid expenses when those expenses make you money.
We have a phrase which is, the cheap ends up being expensive. So the cheap ends up being expensive. You don't pay $150 for professional photos? Okay. You'll lose 6% over a year. Doesn't sound like a lot, but 6% at $100 a night, that's, $400, $500 a night. That's big.
And I'd say on the other side, this is right up my alley, obviously, so that's what I preach, but I think making your actual property stand out is really important. Now, you don't have to do dinosaurs and spaceships, but if you can be strategic on bright colors, and you have to buy a couch, you have to buy a comforter anyways, why not buy a cool one that coordinates and looks pretty in pictures? You can be on a budget and strategically design so that way your property can perform the best way possible. And if you want to put all the bells and whistles, it'll perform even better. But you want to actually make your property physically beautiful as well. So, because average doesn't cut it anymore.
If I could add too, I'm sorry, I'm so eager. There's some stuff I'm really passionate about. So you will hear a lot tonight. We're going to talk about amenities, hot tubs, EV chargers. All of those things are valid. However, there's strategic advantage that you can still find in terrible basement listings. Now, what I mean by that, our second listing was my terrible basement. We call it the Grumpy Grizzly. We gave it a theme. It's got bears. I have 2 terrible sons. They're right above those rooms, and they do a little tap dance all the freaking time. But what our creative advantage has been is we know our guest avatar. That's something that you'll hear from us too. Guest avatar is whom is staying in there? Who am I marketing to get into this place? We market to families who also have kids. So then that moment, the people walk in, if they hear my kids, they'll say, oh, that's okay. I have kids too, and my kids are equally terrible. So when my kids yell, I don't feel as bad. We threw a triple bunk bed in instead of just a bunk bed. We put toys in there. We give them access. We put in a mini soccer field, a sandbox. We had a bunny for 3 years. Rest in peace, our guy. Like, now, all of those things our kids were already doing, but it was a really strategic advantage that we did with a basement listing that normally in this context of this conversation wouldn't be successful. But what we did is we found what our guest avatar was. We focused in, and it wasn't like it was big dollar stuff. It was buying a bunny that I bought for $5 off of Facebook. So
I would say when looking to buy a property in this market, I've thought a lot about this question, trying to figure out the best way to answer it. And the reality is you're still buying real estate, right? Like, I feel like we complicate it and look at all this short-term rental stuff. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned from doing traditional real estate, transitioning to short-term rental, it's still real estate. So you make your money when you buy, right? You hear that phrase a lot. Buy it right, meaning if it's not going to cash flow when you buy it, you better have a lot of reserve funds to be able to float that until it can cash flow. But I just recommend make sure it cash flows from day one, or it can after you renovate it or whatever it is, right? During the due diligence process, what's your backup plan? If regulations change or if the market demand slumps, what's your backup plan? Get on the phone with someone who's successful in that market with midterm rentals. What type of rate could you get with traveling nurses or corporate travelers? What are the rates you can get with a long-term rental? Would it still cash flow at that point? Get creative on the debt. Like Wame, he's still getting sub 5% debt on the properties he's buying because he's being creative about it. And so as you're looking at these properties, look at it from a traditional real estate standpoint. Look at the short-term rental as the potential upside if you can execute it well, but you can't always control the market. In Florida, most of our properties in Florida, property insurance has gone up 40% just this 1 year. That's not something we could have planned on, right? Maybe it is, but if you're looking in Florida, get on the phone with insurance brokers. What's happening in the market? What do you expect to happen in the next 6 to 12 months? Make sure you're including that in your underwriting, because what works today very likely is not going to work the same way in 6 months. We've seen that. 6 months ago, it was completely different than today. And so just try to get the trends for whatever market you're buying in. Make sure you're including that in your underwriting, and you treat it like traditional real estate.
I love it. And I'll just kind of reiterate what Kyle is saying, but add on to it as well. I think when you're an aspiring real estate investor wanting to get into the space, it can be daunting looking up at here, like, how am I going to get into this? But with what Kyle is saying, from the investment world, having multiple exit strategies is going to be your saving grace no matter what. And so that should give you a whole lot more confidence. What Kyle is saying, if you're scared about getting into Airbnb because of X amount of reasons, the saturation, or correct me, Lame, but not the saturation, but maturity.
Dogs don't believe in saturation.
Amen. Or the regulation, whatever it may be. If that's the reason you're scared of it, well, then think about these other exit strategies that Kyle's talking about. Especially for my risk tolerance, Airbnb is something that I don't completely understand, so I stay away from it. That's why I have these people up here, because there's money on the table for certain properties that I own, for sure, and I know that. So, you guys want to add anything onto that, or are we good to go on? Let's get it. Okay, here's another one I'm excited about. And the reason I'm excited about it, as an agent, I work with a lot of investors, and there's a lot of investors or aspiring investors that want an Airbnb. As an agent who is representing the client, the question I get asked a ton is, do they allow Airbnb? It isn't. If I was not licensed, I would say, a lot of these don't allow Airbnbs, but you might be good. So that's not something I can say as an agent when I'm representing someone. So I want to understand, this next question is for the experts. How do the laws/rules restricting STR, MTRs affect your business today? How are you planning for this in the future? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll start. Our first property that we bought was in Joshua Tree, California. Anyone been there before? It's like out in the desert in California, the high desert, right? Very unincorporated. Found a property, did our research, no STR regulations. Awesome, let's go. We were like excited, like we can do anything we want. What we found out is that's actually a pretty risky strategy, because that means that the city or the county is very likely going to come up with regulations in the very near future, because almost every place has by now. This was back in 2018, and of course they've come up with regulations there as well. So one of our rules is buy where the regulations are already established, because that means you know the areas that they're very likely that they already allow and that they'll very likely continue to allow. Once cities have started doing the hotel tax or the bed tax, once they see that revenue coming in, it's very hard for these counties and these cities to give that up. And so we believe if they have regulations in place, they'll very likely stay, and we stay compliant with what they do. Real quick, the two things I would do if you're looking at properties: get on the phone with the county. There might be information on the website. It could be outdated. So talk to the planning commission, say, hey, looking to buy a property in this area. What do I need to know? If you're not comfortable doing that, the company we work with on the renovation and staging, Revity, they have certified underwrites. Well, they'll do all that work for you. It's like $250. They'll give you revenue projections, but part of that is they're doing the manual process, making sure the property you're buying is actually in an area that's allowed. So if you're not comfortable with it, there are options to go and just hire someone for very inexpensively to make sure you're not going to get yourself in trouble.
I agree. And I think a lot of people do kind of ignore the rules and do it themselves. And it's one thing if it's like your basement apartment or a onesie twosie. But if you're wanting to build a business, it's very high risk to build a business trying to skirt the law. So I just recommend go with the law and find places where it is highly regulated. Like Kyle said, not worth your whole business to collapse over one overnight change of law or implementation or a person coming to your house and saying you can't do it.
I'm probably a little bit more.
I know, right? We're going to be opposite of Logan.
Next. Lawmate does not take no for an answer. Tell them about the 10 units that you bought in a non-conforming area.
So
What was that again? I think
I have to be very careful what I'm saying here. Right?
We are very risk adverse on our side.
Okay, so I approached the developer, and he has about, I don't know, probably 60, 70 million of these new built beautiful homes in the middle of Hurricane that can't be STR'd. And I knew that going into it. And I ended up buying 10 of them. And my thought process was, well, if I get enough of them, the city would give me a variance, and they did. So they gave me a variance. So I guess you guys got to hear the right lesson there. Don't skirt the law.
Change the law.
change it. No, and this, I'll be honest, this is the one topic I am crazy passionate about. I am, and I will be as simple as I can on this. The thing that I do dislike about a lot of city regulation is it does not create democratic opportunity for us to have equal opportunity conversations. Now, what I mean by that is, for example, right now in Sandy is considering reviewing and potentially revising the rules for Sandy. Now, there are plenty here who may or may not be up here or not, or in the audience who probably have non-conforming units in Sandy. Now, what that means is you want to talk about and say you want to be in compliance. Yet, the moment you go to a city council meeting, you are afraid to say, I'm Aaron Kirkham, and I have a short-term rental that's non-conforming. Because they'll say, oh, right, yes, we'll wait for your notice. And that is not a democratic opportunity. I very much am in it. So towards that end, we're creating, Lame and I are working really aggressively on creating a short-term rental association, the Utah Vacation Rental Association, so that we can have democratic opportunities and go to Sandy and say, we represent 50 people. And if you ban us, that means you lose all of this revenue. Why would you do that to yourselves? Because most cities, they come in with the rhetoric of let's ban them all. They did this in Austin and New Orleans. They banned all of them. And the Supreme Court of each state has found it to be against the Constitution and has repealed those laws. So the reality is what's going to happen over the next 5-10 years, cities, counties are going to swing hard against them. They're going to be found unconstitutional. They're going to be sued and repealed. Lava Hot Springs is one I'm working on right now. But they're not in compliance with Idaho. You can already tell I'm getting too deep into this. Anyways, the reality is there's still opportunities to have conversations, but it's best to be legal. Or there's ways that you can still be an active participant in the process, because it's not if, it's when.
And also to add to that, right? Like the reason that cities and regulations often are, maybe trying to restrict them, it's because of the horror stories. So to that end, don't be that guy, right? I was able to walk in and get a variance because I am good at what I do. And I am very organized. It's a system. There's professionals that are at work here. And so when you jump into this, just know that there's ways to be very effective to where you can have a short-term rental different ways. And I'll also speak to the occupancy diversity that we have. Short-term rental is defined as 30 days or less. There's a huge market in multiple parts of Utah where midterm rentals, there is a huge market for them, but also they fit in line with law, right? The short-term rentals, a lot of cities, they only define short-term rentals as anything that's being rented 30 days or less. So if you have a property that potentially is being rented monthly, you don't fall under that law, right? And so it's just understanding the game that you're playing. Don't be the guy that's going to ruin it for everybody. Do it the right way. However, be wise and be smart about how you execute, and that's what we do.
We ironically, we all went to a convention together in Austin. One of those friends who is not here just got shut down by Orem because he was that guy. And he actually, he has stimulated heated conversations within the city of Orem that doesn't have a regulation and will shortly. So, which only caters, I think, more to the concept of like, we're talking so much about this. If you're going to get into short-term rental, midterm rental, you have to be smart. You have to be professional at it now, because the days of throwing furniture in are over, and the days of skirting the law are over. You need to do it legally, or you need to make your contracts make it legally. Ask me after.
I love it. Okay, so Brittany, you mentioned that talking to the county is that the easiest way to verify this information?
Kyle mentioned that, but yes, we call every time we're looking at properties to acquire, we call the county and verbally verify with the people in addition to the website.
Okay.
And if I could add, ask for the reference in the code, because sometimes people get called a lot and the secretaries, they put their bias into it, and so they won't give it to you. Say, okay, that's great. Where is it in the code? We actually were able to do a property as a midterm rental because she said, no, we don't do Airbnb. And I said, well, Airbnb is a platform. We're not doing Airbnb. We're doing corporate stays, which are traditionally 30 days more. We looked at the code allows it, and we were able to push through a deal that otherwise, if we would have listened to the secretary, we wouldn't.
So is there, and I'm just thinking volume-wise, if I'm calling on property after property, is there like a map or anything of the sort that can narrow down these areas?
Revity, the company that Kyle was referencing, they have a database they're building, and things are constantly changing. But I think they're the only one I've heard of that has a pretty good compiled list. And then, like I said, Kyle said you can also buy specific market information
or call us. I mean, the reality is, or call a local manager who knows. I mean, I get calls all the time of, hey, I'm thinking about it. My client is thinking about it. Just give us a call and say, hey, what about hurricane? Or whatever it is, Thule.
But the industry just needs more people doing it right. That's like, and when I say right, it's, I mean just professionally, like doing it at a high level.
I love it. And then this one, I didn't throw this question in there. I didn't know how we'd be doing on time, but I think we've been talking a lot about short-term rentals in general. How are you guys implementing midterm rentals, and where's that gap that you're throwing midterm in that maybe the short-term was lacking?
I'll speak to this because we do a lot of them. People don't recognize that when you have a furnished rental, there are 3 big trillion-dollar industries that you can serve, right? But people just always assume Airbnb, they always revert to that because it's the easiest platform, it's well known. Not only is there a lot of money here, but insurance is a big one, okay? There's a lot of people, you guys would be surprised. Utah's very dry. You'll be surprised at how many fires every summer a family gets displaced. And there's a broker that's trying to find a house to house his family, and they're just wanting to write a check. Right? They're huge. I mean, we've signed multiple in the West Valley that are 4-bedroom, 2-bath. This is West Valley. This is a hood. Like, and I know that because I'm from there. And all my family's there. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, West Valley, baby. But like a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, we've signed multiple contracts between $6,000 and $7,500 a month. My mortgage is like $2,200 a sup, right? And so there's a huge opportunity in insurance. And then the third, is government and professional contracts. So like we have multiple executives for a lot of the lead high tech companies. We have a direct line of access to their EAs because when they come, they know to call me because I'll get them a place to stay. So we just housed the SVP of New Skin. We've housed a handful of others. And so really my point being is that there is a ton of these midterm contracts in different industries if you're just willing to put in the work. Again, real estate, money, real estate, passive income is just a byproduct of relationships.
And I mean, adding on to it, to give you an example, we shifted this summer 45% of our portfolio from short-term to midterm. Half we converted. Now, part of that was Kennecott did a big rehab project, and so there was a lot of contractors coming. But on top of it, for us, there was a lot of insurance claims that we had, and then there was a lot of working professionals. And that's not just, that's interns. That is, there's a lot of different things. So the strategic advantage, and really midterm, I would consider like a very up and coming, more fashionable way to rent out furnished properties. And you'd be so surprised how easy it is. Because really how we approach short-term rental or fully furnished rental is we're experts in short-term. So let's look at those numbers first. Let's put the furniture in. Okay, the numbers don't work. The furniture's already there. Let's just change the marketing and get midterm rental contracts. Now, if it doesn't work, then clearly it's not strategic for this home. Then we can roll it into long-term like it has worked since the beginning of time. So that's really our tiered approach. Subject to some properties are just more conducive. American Fork, I don't know what it is. Midterm rental haven. We shifted all of our American Fork, and we have about 10 properties there into midterm rentals. So, some of it is just being aware of what's coming in, and then it's acknowledging those opportunities.
So for us, we actually don't have a lot of experience in this, so we tried to transition into midterm recently, but our niche is a little bit too unique to fit into that box. We do only large properties. So ours are 5 to 11 bedrooms, and they're made for groups. They're highly themed. They're more expensive. So far, we haven't had a whole lot of luck with midterm because we've niched ourselves in, and that's can be good or can be bad. But it kind of like Kyle was saying earlier is like keep in mind real estate, and there's some regrets we have of like going so niche that when there's a market change, you're not as flexible. So like have more backup plans is one of the lessons we've learned because we get to ride the roller coaster when it's really high, but that means you also ride the roller coaster when it goes low because you are limiting your marketing. Kyle and I personally had one property that was midterm stay, and it was accidental. We had a house that we flipped. COVID hit. It went in and out of contract 5 times. We decided to take it off the market and rent it and do Airbnb. This is actually before Loma Homes existed. So we decided to do Airbnb. And we knew nothing about it. And it was like, great, we're making really good money. Some people threw a party with inappropriate activity. The government got called.
Great party, by the way.
They trashed the house. The government got called. We got a notice that apparently vacation rentals weren't allowed in that area. We didn't know. We were just newbies. And so we're like, oh, a 30-day minimum. Okay, let's just turn it into a midterm stay. And overnight, that property was so easy, and it was a perfect combination. And this was in Minneapolis at the time. And we got traveling nurses, we got corporate travelers. They came for normally like 3 months. They treated the property well. I never had to hear from them versus dealing with parties and turnovers and cleanings. but we made twice the amount that we could have as a long-term rental. So if you have the property that's the right fit, this was like a 3-bedroom in a metropolitan area. It was perfect, and it was very low touch for us. Short-term rentals is a lot of work. In general, it's just more work than a long-term, and a midterm is like a really good middle ground where you get more revenue with not that much work.
Thank you. Okay, for our next question, this is one of my favorites. How much did you guys get paid for being here?
I got that. I got 1,000.
Everyone's like, what? A box of pizza.
They didn't get
Pizza.
The purpose of this question is these guys are giving you free game, right? They have all become very successful in their own right. And so as a giving back, I want to ask them, what can the audience do to help you in the business?
That's really dope.
Yeah. I'll take all the help I can get. So if I said something and you're like, I can help you, come talk. Couple things come to mind. We've mentioned community a lot in this. Aaron talked a little bit about how we've helped each other. He's helped me the same way I've helped him during tough times. Get on the phone. Hey, going through a lot of stuff right now. Like, help me out. And even just talking to your hype man could help. And so a lot of us here, we're here to learn something and hopefully learn from someone who can help elevate us, but take the time to reach behind you and help someone behind you as well. We're all at a different spot in our journey. So wherever you're at, even if this is your very first real estate meeting, hopefully you learned something tonight that if a conversation comes up about short-term rentals, like maybe you can pass that insight on to someone else. Just look out for each other, help each other out, become that community for each other. On a personal level, we have lots of stuff going on. There's always private funding opportunities if you're looking to invest money. Really just, we're here to help too. Like, it's just, you give and you take and you work together as challenges come up. So really just be that community with us and we'll hopefully get back to you guys.
And building onto that with business opportunities or things we can work together, what are helpful for us. If you're interested in design and like asset optimization or construction management, anything like that to make your Airbnb go to the next level, you can let me know and I can do pre-proposals and whatnot. If you're interested in checking out IntelliHost to optimize your listing, that would be awesome. This is newly launched this year, so we love the feedback. We'd love to get you in on there, and we welcome feedback too as you're testing out the product. Talk to those guys in the orange. They'll get you signed up for free, and let us know what you think of it and what we could do better as we're building that out. Jeff, any other things that... There you go.
My only ask, okay, when you listen very carefully, is do not be an ask hole, okay? And what I mean by that is there's been things that have been shared here that me personally, I've paid multiple 6 figures to learn, right? And my only ask every time that I come to these and I give is just go win, go do something. Go do something with the things that we learned, because it's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. You're capable of doing it, because we need more good people in this industry to elevate all of us. And so when you win, we win. So to me, it's just like, just don't be an asshole. Just go out there and grind and win, and we'll all win together.
You really caught me off guard, Tanner. To be honest, I think for everything, I just noticed.
I'll throw them on
I'm so prepared. I'll be honest. I think for what all of us do, we're so niche that we get asked so much. We get asked for contracts. We get asked for stuff, and we don't get anything in return. So I'm kind of. I think in all reality, like if there's anything I could use for help is truly what my motivation is I want to help other people. But in order to help people, I want to help people who want to develop with me. I don't know anything, or I don't know everything, and I want opportunities where I can develop with other people. And I want to help people who are helping themselves. So if you have opportunities that have to do with short-term rental or not, I'm all about collaboration, and I'm all about, if I can't help you, I want to find somebody that can, because I know because this deal didn't work out doesn't mean that the next one won't for us. So if you want to develop and you want to develop with me, reach out in whatever iteration you think is.
And join their little association they're making and change the government.
Amen. Awesome. Okay, and I'll add to everything that they've said. I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert in the short term, midterm, like these folks are. One thing that I have been great at networking. I feel like a lot of what I owe my success to, where that's limited to, is getting to know people like these amazing folks and figuring out how I can provide value to them. And I used to rack my brain, how can I provide value to someone that makes a lot more money than me? What can I offer them? Every single one of them has a version of a community, a business, a following even on Instagram, right? That you can support. That is giving value to these individuals. And so I'll reiterate that. If you can provide value to any of them, not only will it help them, but even looking at it selfishly, I can promise you that'll elevate your business. If you can get in the same circle as these people, it's going to elevate you. And that's a lot of the reason why I do what I do and bring these experts along. So raise your hand if you learned something. Okay, hopefully that's every one of you. I certainly did. My hand's raised high. If we can give a round of applause. Yes. And then a couple things. So we are going to stay for an hour after our Q&A. Wow, there's a lot of free game here. So what time is it? Okay, we're good. Wow, we're really good. Okay, we're going to turn the time over to some questions. We got one already. I am going to be the microphone guy. Yeah, stretch, take a drink of water. I'm going to be the microphone guy. And again, I'll reiterate, we'll have a certain amount of questions, but then get out of your comfort zone at the end. We got guys.
Don't be an asshole.
Please say your name.
No pressure. No pressure.
Say your name before your question, and then who you're catering that question towards.
John Fiddler. This is for the Burtons. Do you guys have a pirate-themed home in St. Augustine?
No, we do in Panama City Beach, Florida, though.
Because I saw one, and it's one of the best ones I've ever seen. Just
You haven't
You're
seen
doing that, then not. Then
I think it's a bonus. It's really a
all right, Gabe. Then we'll go here. Sorry, there's a lot of, like I said, this is why we network after.
All right, Lame. Let's just say I want to get into midterm rentals. How do I get to midterm rentals? Let's say there's Airbnb for short-term rentals. Is there like a top one mainly for midterm rentals, like Furnished?
Really good. Yeah, so the first one I'd recommend, ALE Solutions. Okay, they are a big broker that you can go online. It's different than Airbnb. They're just going to take your information and someone's going to reach out. But they are a middleman, meaning that they are bringing deals directly from the broker and they're cutting themselves in the middle, okay? And so the best place that I've found is really, and I harp on this because I believe this is the heartbeat of all real estate, it's relationships. I just know a lot of these brokers, I've just annoyed the hell of them. I've sent them enough treats for them to know my name. And because of that, whenever there's a family that needs to take an insurance claim and they're displaced, they call me. And so I can guarantee there's a lot of people in your network that are within arm's reach that are doing that. So that's where I would start.
You said that was at ALE.
Yep, ALE Solutions.
HelloLanding.com. That's another one that's becoming. We kind of have a terrible experience with them, but but they provide some leads.
We've closed some.
So there's that. Hello Landing. Furnish Finder, we have not had great success.
They're terrible.
They are very good for traveling nurses. So if you're doing room by room model, that's a great spot. Robert Newdorf, send me a message and I'll share. He's a friend of mine that he has like 3,000 contacts within this. And so he gets blasts all the time and he sends them out. Vivian Vip is another person that I would follow. I can be anybody who wants these specific contacts. just send me a message. I'll connect you with them. They're great people who are influencers in it. Another thing that we have done is using the platforms, we have created secondary listings that cater towards midterm rentals. And one example, so we had a really hard time with the home in Idaho Falls, Idaho, because it was in the hood. And so what we did on that one is we made it a 7-day minimum. We increased the daily rate to $80, yet we gave a weekly discount of 25%, which gave it down to $60 a night. And then we put an infographic. An infographic it's just like a sales thing, anything you see on Facebook, on the listing that says 25% off on midterm rental stays, to which then they can only book 7 days. And consumer-wise, they feel like they're getting a discount. Thus, we were able to book it. We were actually considering selling the property. We maintained ownership for another 8 months because of the shift. And that was using Airbnb, VRBO, but they were secondary listings. So that's another way that we've also done.
Just to follow up, sorry, one last.
Oh, you're good.
So kind of like Airbnb, these platforms take a percentage every time you get a booking, or do you pay a fee, or how does that work? Because let's say I'm trying to get into midterm rentals and I don't have the money to afford these things, but I do want to do midterm. So how does that work?
Yeah, just like Airbnb, all the platforms will have their standard fee, right? With me, I found a lot of, like, I've had one broker that's literally brought me 10 midterm contracts, and he's just cutting himself in the middle. What that price is, I have no idea, nor do I care.